Hey, folks. Uh, Unhappy Saturday because of the mass shooting that happened in El Paso, Texas. It was a horrible, horrible, disgusting act of cowardice. Once again, some misfit, some ridiculous piece of shit coward decided to do that stuff. My heart goes out to all the people that lost loved ones in that violent act. And it's sad and it's disgusting. And it needs to stop. I mean, I don't even know if it can stop at this point. I mean, I'm at a point, where do I start? Where do I start? I could start at a lot of places. Let's start first here. Years ago, we used to have insane asylums back in the 60s, 50s and 60s, and when somebody was mentally deranged, well, they grabbed him up and they took him off and they put him in a padded cell with a straitjacket on so he couldn't hurt himself or anybody else. Sometimes when they knew the guy was actually evil and mentally deranged, and they knew he was a threat to people, they gave him electric shock treatment. And they just fried his ass. They fried his brain with electroshock treatment. And, a good example is, even though it's a movie, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson. Well, that's what they really used to do. But, well, it turned him into a vegetable, and it turned him into, from a violent, freaking aggressive, dangerous person, and turned him into like he was a vegetable and completely harmless now because he has no mind anymore. And he just sits in his bed and he just exists. Wow. The left came along. Bill Clinton was responsible for a lot of that, closing down a lot of insane asylums because the left said you can't stigmatize mental illness as if it's racist or something like that. That's the argument they used. You can't stigmatize mental illness. It's mean and cruel to lock them up. We gotta be nice and kind to them. So that's why they were all closed. All these mental asylums and insane asylums were all closed down. And now it's all done with, like, pills and kindness. It's all done with kindness now. Here, take your mass murder and suicide pills and pat him on the head and you'll be okay. And send him on his way. That's exactly why the shit's going on. Non-stop. One after another. Where they should be locked into an insane asylum. At the first sign of mental illness, they should be locked up. If they're sought and engaging with a true professional psychiatrist or psychologist, they can get to the root cause of whatever's fucking them up and give them true mental illness treatment. That's not happening anymore. Why? Because we can't stigmatize mental illness. Because the left doesn't want to stigmatize mentally ill people. That's exactly why, like I just said a minute ago, the shit's going on. What else we got? Not to mention the fact that it's funny how when they took prayer out of school, you didn't have all these mass shootings. It was unheard of. It was unheard of. Even never mind back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, even the 70s. Well, actually, I was a kid in the 70s. It was unheard of. You didn't have school shootings. That's because they're all being put on these psychotropic, mass freaking crazed freaking medications and pills that are driving them crazy. And it's adding to the problem, not solving it. And another thing is, I'm actually kind of surprised to say this because years back when I was a kid, excuse me, actually, no excuse at all. I'm an obnoxious slob. If you don't like it, too bad. Yeah, there were kids committing suicide because they listened to an Ozzy Osbourne record. They listened to backward messages, and that compelled them to commit suicide. And the PMRC and all these paragroups were trying to ban Ozzy Osbourne and all this stupid shit. It's like, no, how about your kid was mentally ill in the first place? And you didn't do nothing about it. You just let him go by his way and let him be him and not recognize the problem before a problem happened. I used to think that was crap back then. That was bullshit. But these days, I really do believe it. I said it in a previous video that I made about 2 weeks ago. It has to do with societal decay and a complete freaking breakdown of moral decency. We don't have that anymore. You know, when they're making movies like, for example, when I was a kid, I grew up with Jason and Leatherface and Michael Myers and all these horror movies from the 80s. But they were like the PG version of what the fuck they're putting out now. Now they got the Saw series. Have you ever seen one of those? I saw the first one. I'm repeating my shit from a previous video, but it's my content, so I can repeat it as much as I want. It's not, I'm plagiarizing myself, and I can do that, god damn it. Where when you see, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one, there's very little blood and gore in there. It's all just the macabre insanity of it all. Even a lot of the Friday the 13th movies, when Jason's like chopping people up and shit. You know, you got some teenager there and turns around and Jason swings a machete. You don't see it actually hit. You see the after effect for like 1 second with a machete in their stomach or their face or something, and it's like 1 second. Now you got the Saw series. Yeah, that's a really good series. We have extremely visual, graphic, freaking torture of innocent human beings. Why are we making videos like this? Why? Or movies, rather. Why? What's the purpose of that? Especially, I seen one clip. Somebody posted once, this poor black guy, man, he was putting this twisting machine, and they're twisting his feet around and twisting his legs around, and the guy's screaming in agony. Why the fuck are we making shit like this? Why? That's what leads to your societal decay. And all these, don't tell me these violent video games don't do it either. Like this latest fuck scumbag piece of shit. Don't tell me he was not like all on these pills and all the medication and psychotropic drugs. And he's probably playing Grand Theft Auto 5 for, 12 hours a day. In fact, another video game, I mentioned that in a previous video. The game literally is called Hatred. The game's called Hatred. And the whole point of the game is this big guy that looks like freaking the Undertaker. He rounds up all these weapons and puts them on himself, and he goes out and he just ruthlessly commits atrocities, killing people in the most despicable ways. Why do we need to keep making games like this? Why? Why can't you make games where people encourage people to do good? Instead of making a game called hatred, how about a game called love? How about a game called caring? Nah, because our society's too far fallen, and that shit don't sell. That doesn't make money. You got these Hollywood assholes. Every time we get a mass shooting from one of these scumbag lunatics, well, they get up and they protest. We are gun control, gun control, gun control. Well, you assholes are the ones that perpetuate half the shit, half the time. If you want to know the truth of it all. You make the most despicable movies full of violence and pornography, and then you get up and make speeches protesting violence and pornography. Get the fuck out of here, you hypocritical fucks. And you wonder why this shit keeps happening. In a completely demoralized society, completely devoid of any kind of morals at all, or any decency. That's just out the window now. Everything's all perverted. Everything's all for doing something ridiculous, and how perverted and disgusting can it be to be viral and to go popular? Well, that's where we're at now as a society. And you get lonely, lunatic, misfit fucks like this guy that did this shit in El Paso. He was probably one of them that was a lonely, bullied fuck that took it all freaking, instead of the way I did, where I started taking martial arts and taking boxing, and I started fighting back. I got picked on at school too. It didn't cause me to take up a gun and harm innocent people. I fought back. And, well, then the bullying stopped. Because I learned very quickly after I started doing it. Now, if you hurt somebody, they'll leave you alone. It's common sense. That's not taught anymore. All there is the pussification and homosexualization of children, and our entire society is being demoralized. Completely societal decay. That's the real cause of it, as well as mental illness. Because the left doesn't want to stigmatize mental illness. That's exactly why they're walking around the streets today doing the shit they're doing. And they want to blame guns. That's going to be my next thing. You want to blame guns, huh? An inanimate object. No, I have several firearms. Not one of them is ever. Every time I come home from work, they're always still in the safe. And magically, they never unlocked the safe themselves and jumped up in the air all by themselves and hurt somebody. Nope. You can go out there and kill somebody with a screwdriver. And you get to ban all tools. How about a drunk driver? A drunk driver that kills an entire family. Some guy and his wife and kids in the car, and he hit him head-on collision doing 90 miles an hour because he was drunk and whatever else. Does everybody's cars have to be banned all of a sudden? No, they don't call for that. It's ridiculous what's going on in our society. Holy shit, I'm going on 14 minutes now. I made my point. Our societal decay. I really pray to God that we can come back from this and maybe restore it. I don't know that we can, but we must try. All right, that's enough. God bless y'all, and I love y'all. And God bless the victims and the surviving family members of this horrible tragedy that happened in El Paso. My thoughts are with you, fellow Americans. Good night.